Hello! I can't tell you how excited I am to be in the woods today. This is the first time in the 5.5 weeks since my surgery that I've been in the woods. I'm almost overwhelmed. It's the first day of spring here in Halifax, 17 degrees Celsius, a little cool but still beautiful, overcast, but certainly my spirits are high. I'm enjoying this immensely. I have no particular reason for coming out today. Doing a little foraging, see what mushrooms or what other edibles I can find as I go along. Have a lunch and a cup of coffee. Always got to have a good cup of coffee. And I have some coffee I want to share with you today. I may put that together in this video, or it may be part of a separate video. But I thought I'd bring you along and just share the pure joy that I'm experiencing right now getting back in the woods. If you're interested, follow along with me. There may not be a lot of new and interesting things, but just me getting reacquainted with an old friend. So stand by and let's go for a ride. You know, early fall, I think, has to be one of the best times of year for foragers. People who like to go out in the wood and find either edibles or medicinals, or both. Oftentimes they are the same thing. And here's something, you know, I'm seeing more and more fungus, and fungus is not my strong point, but I'm starting to learn to identify a few. But when I don't know what I'm looking at, I photograph it, I take it home, I research it, and I'm going to share with you a new service I found that helps. I'm hoping somebody will correct me, but I'm thinking it's a fall oyster mushroom. It is growing directly off of the birch tree, not out of the ground. But there is a lot of fungus around. I'll share a few more with you as I go along. Not so much for identification purposes, just to show you the variety that I'm seeing around here. So that's one interesting one. Let's see what else we can find. You know, it's very easy when you're trying to get somewhere in the woods that you'll walk right by things unless you have your eyes open and they're looking for it. And some of the things you'll miss are literally right at your feet. And if I look down here underneath this bracken fern, how cool is that? I'm not sure what it is. I will get an identification for it. Hopefully I'll be able to share that on camera or on this video. If not, someone else may want to tell me what it is. All right, let's keep looking. Here's another rather large fungus. Kind of white to yellow on top. These are well past their prime. It is a gill fungus. I'm looking down underneath it. 4, maybe 5 inches across in diameter, and apparently as they age they do come up into a somewhat of a trumpet shape. I wouldn't call it a true trumpet, but you can see. I think I see one here that's younger that may help for identification. Let's see, I believe it to be the same gilled fungus. Yeah, that helps anybody identify that for me. Alright, there are more. You know, I'm sure I've shown this view before in some of my videos, probably a number of the videos. In fact, I think it was just about this time last year, just after I had started my YouTube channel, that I came out one day. Must have been a little later because I think there was more color in the trees as the leaves turned red and yellow. But you wonder why I keep coming back to the same place? This is part of it right here. Just the beauty of the scenery, the diversity, the landscape. I don't know if I'll be able to show you this, but I'm standing on just a little bit of a rock cliff looking down. And there's a stream coming out between some rocks down there. It's feeding into the edge of the lake. Nice place to stop and have lunch, and I've done that before, but I'm going on. I have somewhere else I want to be. Oh, mountain holly. Interesting bush. I haven't seen that here before, probably because I didn't know what I was looking at before. It's down in the gorge. I'm not going down to show you. Bright red berries. Not edible. Trust me, I've tried. Not poisonous, just not palatable. Alright, let's move along and see what else we can find around here. Okay, I'm still standing on the edge of that cliff I was just a second ago, and as I turn to walk away, very common this time of year. Excellent eating. Huckleberries. They are a close relative to blueberries. In fact, they look, at least these huckleberries in this area, they have a black color when they're ripe. They, like I said, very close. They're related to blueberries, same family, and they look very much like it. Even the leaves do. But these range, the plants range from 1 to 2 meters in height, and they're all through here. Pretty much at the end of their season. They'll be dropping off shortly if the birds and bears don't get them. But good eating this time of year. Okay, now we'll move on to see what else we can find. So I'm not entirely sure, but I'll give you my best shot at identifying this one. So what we have is a dead stump of a maple tree joined into a living maple tree, sugar maple tree. And there's the bracket fungus. It's on the dead one. And I don't think I can get down to show you the underside. It is a polypore, and it does mark quite readily with my thumbnail across the bottom. It's very thin. My initial thought is, and I'll try to confirm it, is that this is known as an artist conch shelf bracket, or bracket fungus. So I'll see if it is. I think it is, but I'm not positive. It is, if it is considered medicinal. It's not edible. You wouldn't sit down, cook this and eat this, but it won't harm you as far as making a tea out of it. In fact, it does have medicinal qualities. So, and if it isn't, it's still a bracket fungus, which in itself says that it is safe. Whether or not it has good attributes medicinally, that remains to be seen. Okay, let's see what else we can find. So I haven't been stopping and showing you every fungus or plant that I pass as I go along. In fact, there's just too many of them, so I've shown you one in about 50 different species that I've walked by. And pretty soon I got to sit down and have some lunch. I've been hiking for 2 hours. I didn't expect I'd be able to do that in my first hike out in the woods. But this is one, if there was one I was looking for, this is it. Any guesses? Latin name, Trametes versicolor. The turkey tail mushroom. And at first it's right in the center of the path here. And when I saw it, I said, okay, that can't be, because it looks like it's growing out of the ground, and that's not how they grow. But then I realized it's not. It's actually grown out of a small wooden stump. You can see where my finger is. It'll focus in there. So it passes the test. It's in a Coriolis shape. Not always like that, but quite often. It has distinct bands of color working out from the edge in that fan shape. It's got a velvety feeling on top. It is leathery. And the best one, of course, underside is very, very small white pores. So it is a polypore fungus with very, very tiny pores. And that is a medicinal mushroom I've been looking for specifically for the type of cancer that I have. So I'm going to harvest this, and pretty soon I got to sit down and have something to eat. Alright, next time I turn the camera on, it's lunchtime. You know, I said I wasn't going to turn the camera back on, but I found something else that I was looking for late into the hike, and I'm actually quite surprised that I haven't found this sooner, but I'll show it to you now. So one of the things, or one of the skills in identifying wild edibles, wild medicinals, is knowing where to look for them, what environment, what trees they like to grow on or under or around, what type of, if it's wet or dry environment. And this is one that grows pretty much exclusively, well yes, exclusively on dead birch trees. And I'll tell you why I like this one so much. The Birch Polypore. Show you the underside. I don't think the lighting's going to do it justice. I'm going to harvest this, so I'll show it to you again. And the Birch Polypore is an excellent medicinal mushroom, and it comes out this time of year. In fact, I think it was just about a year ago now that I did a video where I found some Birch Polypore. I was using an old camera, so I don't think the quality of the video is as good as it could be. But I harvested a couple of Birch Polypores, took them home, and did a little bit of a show and tell on how they can be used. They're also called the razor strop fungus. They can also be used if you peel off the bottom layer, which will come off quite readily on a fresh one. Can be used as a band-aid, has antibacterial properties. But for me, I'm taking this and I'm going to cut it up before it dries out, let it dry out, and use it to make tea with later. Now, I will tell you, this is an easy mushroom to identify. There's nothing else that looks quite like it on the birch trees, but it's not a especially pleasant drink. It's a little bit bitter. No, it's not terrible. A little bit of honey, and I can actually I've started to enjoy the flavor. But let me harvest this one. Yep, still quite fresh. You can see how white it is on the underside. No bug etchings or marks or holes in it. I think there's one or two more in this tree that I'll probably take with me. There's an old one from last year. You can see how old it gets. And what is really interesting about the Birch Polypore is that it has a lot, almost all of, the same medicinal value as chaga. Maybe not in the concentrations, and maybe the tea doesn't taste quite as good, but what I like about the Birch Polypore in comparison to chaga is that it's much more readily available and it's a renewable resource. These grow fresh every year. Actually, as I look up the tree, I can see some older ones from years past. So there's, oh, look at this. And if I look right here, where my finger is, looks like there's about to be an eruption of a few more. I think I got here a little early. Yeah, there's new ones about to erupt on this tree. They will come out fresh every year, so it makes it a renewable resource. Know where the tree was that you saw them last year. Don't take everything that you find on that tree. Leave some, and then you can come back to it year after year and collect some fresh ones. Oh, quite happy with that. Okay, now I'm turning the camera off, and the next time it comes on, it's lunch. Okay. Might have overextended myself a little bit. Yeah. 2.5 hours of hiking before I sat down for lunch. First time out. Who do I think I am? Alright. So, Luxada folding wood stove. But today it's going to be used with the Trangia, or the Trangia knockoff. Glasses on. Alright, drop the pin in. There. Looks like a pretty good stable place for it. Some marine alcohol. About an ounce. Set that aside. How's that going to sit? Right, like this. Nope, not like that. Like this. Good. Once I get it level. Bit better. Yeah, that'll do it. Well, yep. There. water. Alright. That should be enough. Leave some for my coffee. Alright, put the lid on. That should do it. Lunch today. Kimchi noodles. It's like a Mr. Noodles, but it's a better quality one. Has some soup mix in it. And one of my packets of Spam that's my friend Wade at Woodwalker 1965 sent me. I'm going to use one of those today as well. Not very healthy, but not healthy for a reason. Strangest thing, right after my surgery, before I left the hospital, met with one of the dietitians, and I learned that everything that I had been doing up until that point, I had to stop doing during my recovery. And what I mean by that is all my healthy food. I was absolutely a healthy food person. Lean meats whenever I could, full grains, vegetables with the skins on, apple, oranges, berries, you name it. That's what I enjoyed eating. And I felt I had a very healthy diet for it. But in light of the surgery, I had to give all that up and go to a low or no fiber diet. White bread, potatoes without skins on, rice, white rice at that, not even brown rice. Not what I expected. But that's a few weeks ago now, 5.5 weeks, so slowly I can start to introduce some of the chancier items. And I did try a few things along the way, and I paid the price for it. High fiber is not your friend when you're recovering from this type of surgery. Big, red, almost raw steaks, that's a good thing to have. No, that's a good thing to have anyway, not raw, but a nicely cooked steak is good at any time. But you would think that that would be the wrong thing. In fact, it was the right thing to do. A good high protein red meat meal was one of the things that was recommended for me. It'll stick to check my water here. It's going to take a few minutes. So I've done a separate video on this. I'll release either before or after this video, and it's based on the type of fuel that I'm using in my Trangia knockoff here. And where I had been using methyl hydrate, pure methyl hydrate all along, somebody had raised the question recently about just how healthy is that to be using. It's extremely poisonous if it's consumed, or even if it gets onto your skin, it can soak in through your skin. It always worked for me in the stoves, but I thought, is there an alternative? Well, it turns out there is, but it wasn't an easy thing to find, and that is marine alcohol, almost pure ethanol. It is 90% ethanol with 10% methyl hydrate added. And the only reason they add the methyl hydrate is so people won't drink it. It comes in a bluish color. I have it decanted into a small bottle that I carry my fuel in for this cook set. And it's intended to be safe. Less fumes, or less dangerous fumes anyway. Less likely to soak in through your skin, and good for using in enclosed or semi-enclosed environments like on board a yacht or a pleasure boat. So far it seems to be working quite well. Now I did do a comparison, and I have a separate video on that, and I found that there was not a great or significant improvement over using this fuel over the methyl hydrate. Not as much as I thought it might be. Slightly better, cleaner, healthier. That's about all I can say for it, but at least twice as expensive. So I guess it's a personal choice. What do you want to use? Well, I have 4 liters of it I have to use, so I'll be using it. Now, one of the things I've noticed, and it's happening here as well, is the flames seem to come up much higher than they would with the methyl hydrate. I don't know if that's an indication of efficiency or not, but you can probably see them coming up around the side of my canteen cup. And the water sounds like it's just about ready to come to a boil. Bubbling, steam. Alright, I gotta get my spoon here. 2 noodle packets. What's that? Oh, cool. This is obviously going to be too big for the cup by itself, so break it up a little bit. So as my water comes to a boil, I thought I'd share this with you. A few videos ago, I did, or made a video, I released a video on making an expedient spoon in the woods. And one of those 2 spoon videos that I had done was using the burn bowl method, where I had taken a split of maple and had used a coal from a fire and blew on it with my little homemade pocket bellows until I had a pretty good sized bowl. And then I carved away everything that didn't look like a spoon and took a nice rock, a rounded rock, and ground out all the charcoal load of the bowl until it was very fine, very smooth. And I said I might keep that. Well, I did keep that. I took it home and I just finished it off. And you know, right now it's it's a nice looking spoon. It worked out very well. I'll bring that up closer to the camera so you can see it. Back a little ways from the camera. So if you go back to the video where I did the burn bowl method, you can see the similarities, but it looks much different now. Just finished it off with a little flax seed oil, and it came out quite nice. Yeah. Alright. And just realizing that most of my head wasn't in the video. Alright, my water is boiling vigorously. These only take a minute or 2 to cook anyway. Readjust the camera so you can see me better. So as my lunch cooks here quite quickly, in fact, just wanted to talk for a minute about my experience so far. So I mentioned in opening this video that this is my first time in the woods since my surgery. So for those of you who are new to my channel, 5.5 weeks ago, on the 14th of August, I went into the hospital to have colon surgery for colon cancer. I had learned earlier in the summer that I had colon cancer and that a good portion of my colon had to be removed, as well as all the lymph nodes around it. That was 5.5 weeks ago. My recovery has been very good, very good. In fact, I've had a few setbacks with infections, but at 5.5 weeks, to be able to come out and hike here all day long, I'd have to say that I must be doing pretty good. And I credit that to a couple of things. The least of which is the physical condition that I was in prior to my surgery. I had taken a lot of effort over the years to maintain myself in relatively good shape for my age, just about 60 years of old. I run a lot, I eat healthy, I abstain from alcohol, and I don't smoke. I don't totally abstain from alcohol, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy a craft beer, it's just that I don't consume more than 1 a day. And I had a healthy lifestyle. That wasn't enough to prevent the cancer, but I think it was a good investment in terms of the recovery after the surgery. More importantly were the doctors. I had excellent health care, and one of the things, we complain a lot about health care in Nova Scotia, how slow it is to get in to see a doctor for primary care. And that may be true, but when the chips are down, when you really need it, they're there. It was quick, it was fast, they were professional, and they did a really good job, and I have great confidence in them. But the single most important factor that I attribute to my recovery so far is the prayers and support that I received from my fans, my viewers, my friends on YouTube and friends that I have in the bushcraft community. I can't say enough about it. Thank you. What can I say? Thank you. It means a lot to me to know that people really truly care. I have received gifts from some of you. Gifts of medicinal mushrooms, some chaga, some lichen. That's great. I appreciate that because I will be using those. Thank you. Some golden thread or gold thread. That's a new one on me. I did a little research on it. You may look that up. The prayers and support mean an awful lot. They really do. But the thing I feel best about in all the comments that I got from viewers were the ones that listened to my plea that I made, which was go and get tested. Go and get tested. And I'll make that plea with you again. This is not something that you will know when you have it. Not until maybe it's too late. It's one of those hidden diseases that can go through your body until it's too late. And the only true way to get ahead of the game is to get tested. And it's an easy test. Trust me, it really is. I don't know why I put it off for so many years. I'm glad I did it when I did. Wished I'd done it sooner maybe. But do that, please. Go get tested. I can't ask you enough. Go get tested. My stove went out. But my noodles appear to be cooked anyway. I think I'll just let them steep for a minute. Or stew. Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes and just get my lunch ready here, and then we'll talk some more. All right, so I changed the position of the camera here just to get it down a little closer to the ground so I can show you something. New knife that I'm testing out. Just received it. This is my first time in the woods with it, and I do have a separate preview video that will be out shortly if it's not out by now. XXX Knives Cathmore. Their newest design from Derek Tappan at XXX Knives, and he built this for me to test. And boy, what a beautiful knife. A real beast of a knife, let me tell you. It's a big knife. I'll talk more about the design in that separate video, but let me share that. It is a 3/16 inch 01 tool steel, 5-inch blade with a 4.5-inch cutting surface. And right now this one has Nova Scotia ash handles with blue and white liners, reminiscent of the Nova Scotia flag. It's an interesting spear point design with a handle that has, how should I say, I was going to say concaves is not the right word, but it dips top and bottom, and it has a nice palm swell in the center, locks the hand in beautifully, feels quite nice in multiple positions. So that's the knife I brought out today. It's not going to have a lot of work done to it. Right now, it's going to be used to cut up some Spam. So open my package of Spam up and start my lunch. So in keeping with my junk food diet, Spam. Well, the knife passes the first test. I can cut Spam up very quickly. I'm dicing this up to go in my meal here. Alright, good. Good job. My noodles are ready. In goes the Spam. You're probably aware of this. Anybody who eats noodles as a trail meal or a snack at any time, not very easy to eat with a spoon unless you break them up very small. So recognizing that, when I came out today, a wooden fork that I carved. It's just something I wanted to see if it would work. Made of birch. It turns out right well. I mean, it's not especially pointy, but you can't make them especially pointy and expect them to last any length of time. But for this type of thing, for noodles, it works out quite well. I guess it would probably work for steak or something else as well, but I like noodles. It's nice. Oh, that's spicy. Wow. So I'm going to sit here and enjoy the afternoon. It had been a cloudy start to my day out so far. It's probably 18, 19 degrees now. It was 17 when I started out. I thought it was going to rain for a bit, but the sun is starting to push through the clouds. It's still overcast, but it's getting brighter. I had to step back from the shore of the lake because there was just too much wind. I wouldn't have been able to record anything. So I'm sitting back here, maybe 100 meters or so back in the woods, just enjoying the still of the afternoon. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my lunch and then make a cup of coffee and then head home. First day in the woods, I think that's not bad. Should mention also, for everyone who's been supporting me over the last number of weeks, I appreciate that, as I mentioned, and I'd ask that you would continue. This was only the first step in the journey. It wasn't a fun experience, but I got through it. You can too if you find yourself in that situation. But the next chapter is the one I'm not so sure about. I've heard both good and bad stories, and that's chemotherapy. So in a few days I go to see my surgeon. My surgeon's going to be referring me to the oncology section, and in all likelihood I'll be starting chemo somewhere in the near future. I really don't know what that's going to mean. I'm hoping it doesn't take me down so low that I can't get into the woods, because I've missed it in the last 5-6 weeks that I've been out of the woods. But I'll get in until they start the chemo, and then until I'm too sick to go into the woods, I'm going to get out as often as I can. And if I can, I'll take my camera with me and take you along for the ride. Hopefully have a few things that I can show you. But if not, I do have some video recorded that I'm going to continue to release along the way, and I have projects that I can still do at home. And if there's anything you'd like to see me do, either in the woods or at home, please let me know. Fall's here. What a great time to be in the woods. I mean, any time's a great time to be in the woods. But right now the temperatures are cool enough just slightly. I don't get quite as wet when I'm hiking. And I didn't see a mosquito until I sat down, of course. Of course, I'm not far from a bit of a swampy area, so I guess that's to be expected. But for the most part, no bugs. As I mentioned earlier, it's a great time to forage. You don't get all the spring greens that you would get earlier in the year, but if you're into mushrooms and other fungi, then this is the time of the year to go for them. There are some good ones in the spring, there's some good ones during the summer, but right now I can't step without stepping on something. I've got a lot to learn in that area. I only know very few. The ones that I showed you today are the ones that I know for sure, and those are both medicinal mushrooms, not edible mushrooms. I'm going to hook up with some people that are much more expert than I am and learn a lot more about that. Okay, I'm going to enjoy my lunch as it cools off here, and then bring it back at coffee time. So I just got back from the lake. I had to go down and wash out my mug that I had my lunch in and get some water that I can make my coffee with, and I decided I wanted to set my camera up differently and realized there was no trees nearby that would make for a good tripod. So very quickly I assembled a tripod. And I just want to show you how quickly you can do this. You might call this bushcraft. I just call it an expedient quick setup. It's just 3 branches I picked up off of the ground and had a piece of bank line and a Canadian jam knot, and I've got an expedient tripod that I can make for my camera. So I'm going to set my camera up on this, and then I'll start to prepare some coffee and show you what I'm doing. Alright, I have a couple little chores I have to do quickly. One is to get my water on for the coffee. I'll refill the Trangia stove, my alcohol stove. Another ounce or so. Get that lit. Get the crossbars back on. Went down to the lake and refilled my water bottle. Alright, that's good. Put that on top of the stove. Right, since I used my water bladder in my water bottle today, and I'm going to need water, a considerable amount going out, I'm going to have to purify this. Now, I don't have a filter, so what I'm doing today, this is a 2-liter bladder, and I have at least 1.25 liters, so I'm going to treat it as 1.5 liters or so. is use my pristine water drops. Don't use them very often, don't have a lot of need to, but you mix the two types of drops together, wait till they change color, and mix them in, and you got to leave it for a few minutes now. Mix 5 drops of pristine part A and part B in the mixing cap, rack 5 minutes, and that would be for each liter of water. So since I'm going to consider this 1.5 liters, I'll go with 8 drops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that was 9. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait for that. I keep putting my hand in pine sap on this root here. Cover it over with some moss there. And I know you can't see my head when I'm talking to you. Another one of those camera setups, but I wanted you to see what I was doing here with the water. As my kettle comes to a boil, or my canteen cup. And the drops are all turning yellow. Alright, it's no sense sitting here watching the kettle come to a boil. So what I'm going to do is, as my water gets ready for my coffee, I'm going to be adding those drops to this bag of water. And I've made enough drops for just about 2 liters, and this is 1 liter, not even 1.5 liters of water here. So, and there was some water left over that I brought from home. So chances are this I could probably get away without purifying the water. It is from the lake, it's not still or stagnant water, but why would you take the risk? Especially when my stomach is not at its optimum. I'm making sure that I purify this and probably use a little bit more of the solution that is necessary for this amount of water, but that'll just ensure that it tastes. I find that when I use this, some people say they get a taste off it. I don't, and maybe I don't have the sophisticated taste buds that other people have, but I don't get a chlorine taste from that at all. I think in fact it works quite well. So it is ready now, I do believe. Just pour it in. I'll put the cap on, shake it up, and I'll get ready to have my coffee. Oh man, what a beautiful day. What am I seeing through the woods down there? Can't tell. What a beautiful day. I mean, it is beautiful weather, 17, 18 degrees, partially overcast, actually mostly overcast, but still quite a bright sky. But I'm in the woods, the wind is still in here. The smells that come in the fall weather in the woods, hard to beat. Oh, it's just beautiful here right now. It really is. Probably mostly because I'm back in the woods after that extended time off. I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue to come into the woods, bring you along and share with you what I find as I go. Well, only time will tell. Well, I've still got another 45 minutes anyway before I'm out of the woods, so I better get going. I may stop if I find something I think you might be interested in seeing. But if not, if you've enjoyed this video, you may consider subscribing to my channel. But in the meantime, do what I'm doing today. Get out and explore. Take the path less traveled. It'll make all the difference. Bye for now.